after everybody gets a chance to raid the vending machines in the hallway, or if you want to go right into it, and I'll let anybody and everybody that wants to bring food in can bring food in. I've got a couple of power bars, but that's about it. Otherwise, I don't think we're going to be able to finish today, because that's my other option is I'm taking a break now, and I'll get some other judge to cover my calendar at 1 o'clock on Friday, and I'll do this 1 o'clock on Friday. I can't do it tomorrow morning, I can't do it tomorrow afternoon, and I definitely can't do it Friday morning, so that would be Friday afternoon.
What I would suggest to the court, Judge, is that we go ahead and do Friedhoff now. He should not be that long. And then take a break for court personnel and everyone else, and then resume this bond hearing, Judge.
Okay. You want to keep going?
I want to keep going, Judge. I don't want to...
I want to keep going too, but I got to talk to my courtroom staff and make sure they're going to be okay. Mr. Escobar, do you join the state and want to keep going?
I would agree, yes, Your Honor.
You want to keep going?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right. You okay? Can you do another one, or you need a break? You do one more? Can you keep going tonight, or you do?
Yeah.
You say I'll go on. I'll take a break. It's not fair to you. Do I feel you okay? You're okay. All right. Where's Captain Ferrantelli? He's probably making phone calls. Lieutenant Bain here still? Who's ranking officer?
They already.
Everybody was ranked left. All right.
Just stepped out.
Are we okay? Can we keep going?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Prefer to finish today.
Prefer to finish today. All right. Everybody's on the same page. It sounds like great. Call your next witness and state.
The state would call Derek Friedhoff.
All right. The plan would be to take a short recess then after Derek Friedhoff for a comfort break. And then you want to go right back, keep going on witnesses, or do you want to give everybody 45 minutes to 11 McDonald's?
No, Judge. What I was saying is do Mr. Friedhoff, who's going to be a short witness.
Yes.
And then if court personnel and everybody takes 30 or 45 minutes to grab something, and then come back. 30 minutes enough for you? You'll do whatever. 30 minutes, okay? Mr. Escobar and Mr. Michaels, can you get some food in 30 minutes and be back?
Your Honor, I'm good.
Okay, I'm just making sure that I am told that sometimes I go way too long and that I put other people in discomfort. It's not my intention to do that. So, like I said, if anybody needs to bring in food, I know generally there's a prohibition, but if you got a power bar or something like that, trail mix, whatever, you're welcome to it. I don't want anybody passing that on me. Where's his witness?
Yes, sir, your judge.
He's
Oh, we bring it. Yeah. It's not delay. You can just approach the witness chair. There, I'll give you the oath over here. Raise your right hand. You swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do.
Have a seat, please. All right. State your main inquiry.
Thank you, Your Honor. May it please the court, counsel. Mr. Friedhoff, can you state your full legal name, please, and spell your last name?
Yes, my name is Derek Sean Friedhoff, Friedhoff.
And Mr. Friedhoff, what is your profession?
I am a registered nurse.
And how long have you been practicing as a registered nurse?
A little over 3 years.
And obviously you're licensed in the state of Florida?
Yes, sir.
All right. Mr. Friedhoff, directing your attention to January 13th of 2014, do you recall that date?
Yes, I do.
And did you attend Cobb Movie Theater on that date?
I did.
And with whom did you go to the movie theater with?
I attended the movie theater with my girlfriend.
Okay. And what movie were you there to see?
Lone Survivor.
Do you know what time you arrived at the movie theater?
We purchased the tickets at 1:16 p.m. and we arrived in the movie theater itself at 1:19 p.m.
Okay. And upon arriving in the movie theater, did anything draw your attention while you were sitting in your seats?
Well, when we currently sat, some bickering caught my attention, so I looked towards the area. Previews came on, so I directed my attention back to the screen.
Okay, and let me stop you. Where were you sitting in the movie theater?
Facing the screen, left-hand side, maybe a quarter of the way in from the aisle.
Okay, and do you know where Mr. and Mrs. Oulson were sitting in the movie theater?
Yes, I do.
And can you tell the court where they were sitting?
They were sitting approximately 1 or 2 rows behind me to the right, the opposite side of the movie theater.
Okay, and Mr. and Mrs. Reeves, do you know where they were sitting?
I did.
And can you tell the court where they were sitting?
They were sitting towards the back, very back row, to the right, in the same area as the other
Olsons.
couple.
Okay. And you indicated that you heard some type of commotion or talking or something going on.
When I originally got there, that's correct.
Okay. Did you look in that direction?
I did.
Could you see?
Just silhouettes, essentially.
Okay.
Did you hear any conversations?
At which point are you referencing towards? Because I heard two different conversations that happened. Once right before the preview started, and then after the preview started, then I heard the additional.
All right. Well, let's talk about the conversation prior to the preview started.
Okay.
What did you hear and from whom?
Just bickering. It wasn't really audible. I couldn't hear what they were saying. It just took my attention to them. But like I said, once the preview started playing, I lost concentration. I focused back on the movie.
So is it fair to say that you could not discern what Mr. Reeves was saying and what Mr. Oulson was saying? You just heard bickering.
Exactly, that's correct.
Okay. Did that alarm you, or did you? Did it raise any suspicions?
If my focus was towards that, but it wasn't enough to, raise some red flags.
All right. To be concerned.
Right.
So you said you kind of just played it off, and then you're watching the previews.
Exactly.
Does anything else happen?
After the second preview, I again heard bickering again, so I focused my attention towards the same area. At this particular moment, I saw a cell phone screen lit up, and I heard, I believe it's Chad, say something along the lines of texting my daughter, followed by some other words.
Okay. Let me just stop you there for a minute. Was Mr. Oulson standing up? Was he sitting down?
At that particular moment, he was sitting down, because I saw the cell phone screen lit and looked like it was either in his lap or maybe mid-chest.
Okay. Did you hear a response from Mr. Reeves?
I heard something, but it was inaudible. I really couldn't tell what was said.
Okay. What happens after that?
After that, I saw a silhouette, because like I said, I couldn't identify what color shirt they were wearing. It was just essentially silhouettes. So I saw someone stand. I heard some crumpling, and then I saw motion of something being thrown when I heard the object landed. I then heard Curtis say something along the lines of either "I'll teach you" or "I'll show you," throw popcorn at me, then followed by the gunshot.
Okay. Did you at any time see Mr. Oulson hit, strike, or touch Mr. Reeves in any way or any fashion?
No, I did not.
Did you see him hit him with a cell phone or throw a cell phone at him?
No, I did not.
And the crumpling that you heard, what did you associate it with?
At first, I didn't know what it was until after the word popcorn was used. And then it came to me that it obviously sounded like a bag of popcorn being ruffled.
Okay. Did you actually see Mr. Reeves shoot Mr. Oulson?
I did.
Did you see Mr. Reeves with a gun in his hand, or what? Tell us what you saw.
I saw the silhouette of a man standing, followed by the flash from the muzzle of the handgun.
Yes, sir.
Then I originally thought that maybe it was a warning shot because I saw Chad still standing. Then a few seconds later, I saw him collapse.
Okay. Did you hear any statements from Mr. Oulson?
No, I did not.
The one statement that you attribute to Mr. Reeves, that you indicated it was something like "throw popcorn in my face," was that after the shot or before the shot?
Before the shot.
Okay, so before the shot, you hear him say "throw popcorn in my face," and then the shot.
That's correct.
Did you see Mr. Oulson walking or attempt to walk?
From the
After being shot, what happens to him?
From what I could tell, it looked like he was just standing, and then he collapsed. I didn't see him try to walk or anything of that nature. I didn't see him try to leave or try to go anywhere else. I just saw him collapse.
Okay. Tell us what you did then.
Like I said, I originally thought it was a warning shot, so I kind of stayed in my area. I really didn't, want to rush over there because I didn't know if the shooter was still armed or what he planned on doing. Once I could, assess the situation, I went over to Chad, and I assessed him, and then I called 911.
Okay. Did you start doing chest compressions?
Not immediately because he still had a pulse and he was still breathing.
Did you eventually take your shirt off to try and stop the bleeding?
To apply pressure, yes, sir.
And did you then start chest compressions?
Not immediately because he like I said, he was still breathing. I then asked, after while I was on the phone with the 911, I asked for a flashlight to assess Chad's motor functions, and I checked his pupils to see if they would react to light, and they did not, which usually indicates that His brainstem was not receiving adequate blood or oxygen.
Is that a bad sign?
It's a very bad sign.
Did you continue to do the chest compressions until the paramedics and so on?
Someone was originally doing chest compressions, but they didn't look like they were full deep chest compressions. So I asked to relieve him and take over chest compressions. I then resumed the chest compressions, and Chad did an agonal breath. I stopped, looked for any kind of chest movement to indicate breathing. I felt for a pulse, didn't feel any. Resumed chest compressions again. Then after maybe the 20th chest compression, there was another agonal breath, followed by some fluid being filled up in his lungs, crackles, and blood exiting his mouth. I then resumed chest compressions until paramedics arrived.
Thank you, Mr. Friedhoff.
Okay.
I don't have any further questions, Judge.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Sheriff, any inquiry?
Good afternoon, Mr. Friedhoff.
To you as well.
Mr. Friedhoff, do you know what time you got to the movie theater?
Yes, I do.
What time?
The movie theater itself, or the
I guess I should say Theater 10.
Theater 10, we went inside at 1:19 p.m.
Okay, and so when you went inside the theater, the previews were not showing?
At that particular moment, not yet.
Okay, and so you and your girlfriend
That's correct.
sat down.
Correct.
And you've described where you sat. If you're looking at the screen,
Correct.
you would be on the left side.
Left side. That's correct.
Okay, you would be on the left side of the theater. Is that correct?
Correct.
Now, if I remember correctly, there is an aisle that comes up off that left side. Correct?
Correct.
And there's a center section of seating.
I suppose.
Is there a left section of seating?
I don't believe so.
Okay, so just a center section
Correct.
of seating. And so you believe that you sat near the aisle,
Maybe a quarter of the way in.
a quarter of the way in. How many seats would you suspect?
I don't know, maybe 4, 5, 6, possibly.
Possibly up to 6.
Correct.
Okay. And you believe that you sat, or at least that Mr. Oulson sat, at least 1 or 2 rows behind
Behind
you.
me, to the right.
So if and to the right.
That's correct.
Okay. So if you were seated, you would have to go 2 rows back and then to the right in order to find Mr. Oulson's seat. Is that correct?
Approximately, yes.
Okay. And beside Mr. Oulson, was his wife seated with him?
Correct.
Okay. Was she seated to his left or to his right as he's looking at the screen?
I just saw silhouettes. I couldn't tell where exactly she was sitting.
So you couldn't even tell it was a woman?
You're asking me to speculate.
No, that's what I'm saying. You couldn't even tell it was a woman?
I just saw the gentleman standing.
Okay. And as you saw the gentleman standing, the only thing you say you could see was a silhouette.
Silhouette, yes, sir.
You couldn't tell the age of the individual?
I could not.
You couldn't tell what he was wearing in clothing?
I could not.
You couldn't even tell how tall he was?
I couldn't give an exact height, but I could tell he wasn't short.
And in order for you to see that silhouette, you were having to turn your body.
My back towards, my girlfriend was sitting to the right of me, so I had to turn back and focus my attention towards that direction.
And so if your girlfriend's seated to your right, you were having to look through the space between you and your girlfriend.
Correct. So I'm looking to pass my girlfriend to the right.
To the right. And back.
And back, yes,
At least
sir.
2 rows.
Yes, sir.
And so, how long after you first sat with your girlfriend there, how long after that did you first look back and see Mr. Oulson?
Minutes.
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 Okay. Had the preview started already?
I believe they just, like the opening scenes, like, to turn off your cell phones, to silence them. That originally, I caught my attention, and then once I saw the preview start playing, I went back to the screen.
Did you silence your phone?
I always have my phone on vibrate.
Okay. And so the announcement came up and the preview started, correct?
Correct.
Things are now getting loud in there as a result
Correct,
of
from the
previews.
movie, correct.
You got music, noise, conversation, right?
Correct.
People talking, all kinds of things going on.
Correct.
And so you say you look back because with all that commotion, you say you heard something.
I did.
Okay. And what is it that you heard?
I heard Chad, I saw the cell phone screen lit up, and I heard him say something about texting my daughter.
Okay,
And
let's stop.
this was after the second preview, so it was in between previews.
I want to know the first time that you looked back.
Okay.
Okay? The first time you looked back, what is it that you were able to see? You were looking through you and your girlfriend.
I wasn't really able to see anything the first conversation that took place. I just focused my attention towards that because I heard some commotion. Then I didn't see anything that raised my alarm, so I went back to focusing on the TV screen.
Okay, so let me see if I understand this correctly. When you first looked back,
Correct.
you didn't see any commotion going on
No, I did not.
2 rows behind you, to the right.
Correct.
And so you glanced over there and you immediately looked back.
Correct.
You're now focused on the previews again.
Correct.
You were interested in those.
Correct.
You wanted to see what kind of movies were coming up.
It just caught my attention.
And when you're looking at those previews, not only are you're focusing because you want to know a little bit about what that show is about, correct?
I suppose any person would.
Right. It's an attention grabber, correct?
Correct.
And normally when you have those previews, they're louder because they want to grab your attention, correct?
I would suppose so.
Okay. So now you're focused forward.
Correct.
You having popcorn or drinks with your girlfriend?
Correct.
You have a popcorn in your
I
hand?
think we just had something to drink.
Just something to drink.
Actually, I don't even think we had anything because we got there right when the movie started, so we just skipped the concessions and went straight there.
Right when the movie started?
I'm sorry, right when the show was about to start, because I said we went at 1:19 and the show starts at 1:20.
Okay. Okay, and so now you've indicated on direct examination that you had an opportunity for the second time to look back, correct?
Correct.
Okay, you're seated.
Correct.
Those seats are kind of cushy, correct?
I would suppose so, yeah.
They recline, correct?
Correct.
Comfortable?
I would say so, yes.
And so what caused you to now look back the second time?
Because I again heard the confrontation take place, and then I just saw everything unfold.
Okay, let me hear what you heard. What did you first hear
The first
that
confrontation,
caused you to look back the second time?
just an elevated voice. It wasn't yelling, but it was just enough to grab my attention.
Okay, so on the second occasion that you had to look back, the only thing that caused your attention was elevated voice.
Correct.
Could you tell what that elevated voice was saying?
Part of it wasn't audible, but I did hear texting my daughter.
Okay, so the only thing that you heard of that elevated voice was texting my daughter.
Correct.
That's it.
That's it.
Okay, and so then you looked back, and what are you able to see?
I then heard
No,
another.
what are you able to see? I don't
At
want.
this, like I said, I just saw a cell phone screen lit up,
Okay.
and at that particular moment, that's all I saw.
Okay, so now, when you saw this cell phone screen lit up, was that silhouette standing or seated?
I believe they were seated.
Okay, so you believe that Mr. Oulson at that point in time in silhouette, okay, was seated.
Correct.
And you're indicating that that phone was in his lap.
Either in his lap or maybe mid-chest, as if he's holding it, just to show like, hey, I'm showing my, texting my daughter. It was either in his lap, but I don't believe he was standing.
Okay, and so what kind of phone was it?
I have no. It had to have been a smartphone of some kind because it had an LCD screen.
So you
I
could
couldn't
see-
tell what it was.
You could see, even though you have high backs in those chairs, right?
I'm sorry.
There are high backs. in those
I
chairs.
could still see the phone. That's correct.
So you're saying that between your seat and 2 rows with high backs, you could see a phone that you've described now as a smartphone on Mr. Oulson's lap.
That's correct.
And he was seated.
He was either seating or it was raised, elevated, but I don't believe he was standing.
Okay, now, do you know what he was doing with that phone?
I presume texting his daughter.
Do you know what he was doing with that phone?
No, I do not. I believe it looked like it was in his right hand.
And so you heard those mere three words,
Correct.
And do you now look back at
I've-
your
I've still,
previews?
no, I still focus attention on the screen. I'm sorry, on the area that was the confrontation that was taking place.
You're still not seeing Mrs. Oulson?
I still do not see her, no.
The only one that you're seeing now is a silhouette of a person sitting.
Correct.
Do you see a silhouette of a person sitting beside him?
No, I do not.
So to the best of your recollection here today, you think that the seats on either side of them are empty?
I can't, you're asking me to speculate. I don't know. I just saw the person sitting there.
Okay. And so why are you continuing to look
At who?
at that silhouette?
Because it grabbed my attention.
Okay, well, you saw that the silhouette was there. You couldn't tell any detail of the silhouette, correct?
Okay.
And so you didn't go back to look at the previews?
No, because everything was still unfolding. It didn't just stop.
Okay.
It kept on continuing.
Okay, so what did you see next?
I then heard some, again, inaudible dialogue. Inaudible. I couldn't hear what was said. I then heard something being crumpled and then thrown.
Oh, you heard something being crumpled.
Crumpled, yes, like
At the time
crumpled.
that you were hearing that noise, you didn't know what it was.
I did not know what it was.
Okay. And then you're saying you hear something being thrown. How can you hear something being thrown?
Because you heard something crumple and you hear the impact of it landing or hitting its intended object.
Okay, so you heard an impact.
Correct.
After you hear this crumpling, you actually hear an impact 2 rows, at least 2 rows behind you,
Correct.
in the same general area as you saw the silhouette of Mr. Oulson.
Correct.
Now what happens?
Followed by that, I heard, again, the inaudible, after the bag is thrown,
Well, you didn't see the bag thrown, right?
I just saw silhouette of movement of something being thrown. I couldn't tell what it was, but I did hear something being thrown.
Okay, so let's make sure that when we testify then, just tell me what you actually
I'm
know.
gonna object to him admonishing the witnesses. It's not his role, it's not his job.
Sustain. Just ask the questions, all right? He's answering it. If you don't like the answers, don't ask any more questions.
So what's the next step?
After the bag is thrown, I then hear someone say either "I'll teach you" or "I'll show you" to throw popcorn at me. I then saw the flash from the muzzle of the gun fire, and I saw Mr. Oulson standing for a couple of seconds, and then I originally thought he did a warning shot because I saw him still standing. Then I saw him collapse.
Okay. Let me ask you a couple of questions. I'm going to show you what's been marked as defense exhibit number 3 and ask you if you've ever seen that exhibit.
This is what I wrote.
That is a copy, a correct copy of what you wrote on January the 13th of 2014.
Correct.
And I want you to look at it all and make sure that there's been no deletions or additions from what you wrote on that date.
This is correct.
Now, in that particular statement that you wrote, this was at a time that was right then, right when the event had taken place, correct?
Correct.
Much fresher in your mind.
There was a lot of stuff going on, so yes, I would say that this is correct.
Meaning that it's a fresh time in your life of the event, right?
Correct.
Right when it happened.
Right.
Certainly much fresher in your mind than today.
Correct.
And you knew of the importance of that particular document, correct?
I've never filled one of these out. I've never been in this situation before, so I just wrote down what came to my mind at that particular moment.
Now, in that document, you never mentioned that you saw any popcorn being thrown, correct?
It does not state that in the form.
In that particular form, you never made a statement that someone there in that theater said something to the effect of, that's what you get for throwing popcorn in my face or anything like that, correct?
It's not stated on the form.
That's a pretty important statement, you would think, right?
Like I said, I've never filled one of these out before. I didn't know what to include or what to write. I was actually quite nervous, so I wasn't really able to put down all my thoughts onto the paper the few minutes after everything occurred.
You would agree that that's a pretty important statement, correct?
I would say so, yes.
Now, after this event, did you have an opportunity to read newspaper accounts of this case?
I don't believe, other than what was on the news about the video of the person, I believe it was the Vietnam veteran who was on the news. That's as far as that I've read into the.
Okay, so you saw TV news.
Correct.
You saw or read paper news.
No, I have not.
No newspaper.
No.
You don't get the newspaper. You don't read it.
I'm a registered nurse. I spend a lot of time at the hospital. I take a lot of call, so most of my life revolves around that.
Okay, and so are you telling me no that you didn't?
I have not read the newspaper.
You don't read the newspaper as a common practice.
As a common practice, I do not.
Okay. Now, the only thing that you put in the statement concerning the events before and during the shooting is that there was an exchange of words, man shot the shooter, and stood up and sounded like a brief commotion occurred, right?
Correct.
Now let's talk a little bit about the actual shot. Did you see a gun in anybody's hand?
I just saw the flash from the muzzle.
So you didn't see the actual gun?
I did not see. I could tell it was a gun. I can tell you what caliber it was, what brand it was, what size it was. All I could see was the flash from the muzzle.
Okay. And could you see the silhouette that we were talking about, that first silhouette, when you look back that second time? Could you see that silhouette and where that silhouette was?
The shooter or the person that was shot?
The person that was shot.
Yes, I could see the silhouette of the person standing. Yes, sir.
And could you see whether his back was to you or his front was to you?
I believe it was, his back wasn't faced towards me. It would be his right side that was faced towards me.
So if you're, why don't you turn around for a second there if you can? Because
Okay.
you're in the movie theater.
All right, which way am I facing?
The theater's right there.
Okay.
Okay? And so if, those chairs aren't sideways, are
Are you
they?
saying that wall was the screen?
The screen is the
All
wall.
right, pretend the wall was the screen, okay? All right.
Okay, and so now, if you're looking back, that's what you're doing, right?
Essentially like this. Yes, sir.
Okay, and so the silhouette that you're seeing some rows back,
Correct.
are you seeing the right side of Mr. Oulson's person? Or are you seeing the back of Mr. Oulson's person? Are you seeing the front of Mr. Oulson's person?
I would say it's the right side and maybe a little bit turned, so I saw maybe a little part of his backside.
You tell me when to turn.
Keep on the other way. Right there.
Right there.
That's
okay.
right.
And so that's what you're seeing from your position at the time of the firing of the gun.
That's correct.
Do you see what happens with Mr. Oulson after the muzzle flash?
He was still standing for a brief moment in time, and then he collapsed.
And he collapsed, you're saying, right there.
Right there, yes, sir.
He didn't slide down.
I didn't see him move or walk around. I just saw it was a silhouette person. I can't tell you how far he moved. I just essentially just saw a silhouette.
But isn't it a fact that when you came up to him, he was almost at the aisle? That would have been the opposite.
I don't think he was at the very end of the aisle. I don't believe so. He was still some seats in. He wasn't at the very end.
Okay. On the floor?
On the floor, yes, sir.
Okay. You rush over to him?
Not originally, because I wanted to make sure it was safe to attend to Chad and provide medical care, and I felt that it was safe to do so, so I approached Chad, who was lying on the ground.
Okay. As soon as you heard the flash,
Okay.
the bang and you saw the muzzle flash, did you do anything to cover yourself?
It raised alarms, but I didn't duck and cover.
You didn't duck, you didn't do anything?
I did not.
You just continued to look
That's correct.
in that particular area?
That's correct.
And that's when you saw Mr. Oulson finally come to rest?
That's correct. I saw him standing, and then I saw him collapse.
And you go over there?
That's correct.
and you start rendering assistance.
Not immediately. I saw the entry wound, so I took my shirt off to apply pressure towards it. I didn't start CPR because he was still breathing and he did have a weak 30 pulse.
In fact, when you got to Mr. Oulson, there was already a off-duty police officer at his side, correct?
At that time, I did not know that.
Was there someone at his side?
There was someone at the head and then someone towards the foot.
Okay. And those individuals were men?
Yes, that's correct.
Both of them were men?
Correct.
And they were working on Mr. Oulson?
They weren't, immediately were not doing CPR. They were still at his side, he was still breathing, and he did have a pulse.
Did one of them have his hand putting pressure
I believe so,
on
yes.
the wound?
Yes.
Okay.
After I took my shirt off, we applied pressure.
But before you even took your shirt off?
I did not see anyone apply pressure towards the wound.
Now, just a couple more questions, I'll be done with you. Once you got to Mr. Oulson, there was a lot of commotion going on, correct?
Commotion, can you explain?
People moving.
It wasn't mass hysteria. No one was, there was no reason for, no one was really that hysterical. It was relatively calm other than the people that were affected by this.
There were people talking?
Amongst themselves, yes, but it wasn't yelling or anything.
What were the people talking about?
I heard one of the witnesses say that the person behind him shot him. I heard Mrs. Oulson sound like she was in shock, and I saw her, holding pressure to her hand.
Okay.
And then I was on 911 at this particular moment. I saw this unfolded. I called 911 and explained, give them a situation of what just unfolded.
So are you telling me today that at no point in time when you were looking at that one silhouette, you didn't see a second silhouette holding Mr. Oulson back from the seat behind him?
No, I did not.
Now, as people were talking there at the theater, were they talking about what they had witnessed?
The only one that I heard stood out was one of the witnesses say the man behind him shot him.
Okay, and do you know what that person's name was?
No, I know who he is, but I don't know what his name is.
Okay. And as the night progressed, were other people talking about the event?
While this was still unfolding?
Well, while it was still
after
unfolding
the event.
And as it progressed along that day?
Oh, at that particular moment, after I was on call 911, like I said, I focused on Chad.
At some point in time, that focus,
it overwhelmed me. I just focused my attention on Chad because he's the one that needed care.
Okay. At some point in time, you allowed the paramedics and what have you to take over, correct?
Once the paramedics came and they were at my side, I then let them take over.
Okay. And what did you do?
After that?
Yeah.
I waited at the aisle. I saw Mr. Reeves apprehended, and I waited at the side because police and deputies told us to stay where we were.
Okay, and what police and deputies said was there was a group of people from the theater and said, hey, you need to wait here, right?
Correct.
Okay, and you waited in a particular area, correct?
Correct.
And people that were waiting in that area were conversing amongst each other concerning what had happened.
I would assume so. I wasn't part of that conversation.
Well, I'm not saying that you were telling anybody, but you were hearing that, correct?
Not necessarily. I wasn't really paying attention to what they were having to say. I was with my girlfriend. We just, we didn't really discuss anything. So people said that what we did was brave. I just did something that I was trained to do and take care of.
People were talking to you about your actions as well.
Exactly.
No further questions.
No. Do you have any redirect that you feel compelled to ask, Mr. Garcia? Yes, sir.
Judge, we would just move defense exhibit number 3 into evidence.
Any lawful objection to defense exhibit 3 coming into evidence for purposes of the bond hearing?
Judge, I would object because he's going to try and put it in as impeachment, and I'm going to put in a consistent statement that's going to be contrary to that. So,
however, we'll still accept it, and then we can hear your additional statement. All right.
Mr. Friedhoff.
Oh, he still has it. I'll let him keep it. We'll mark it afterwards.
Mr. Friedhoff, directly after the incident occurred, did you have occasion to speak to a detective by the name of James Garapi?
After the incident?
Yes, sir.
I believe I did. Yes, sir.
Did you tell Detective Garapi that you stated that you and your girlfriend, Jenny Monero, were sitting 5 to 6 feet
Objection.
to the left of the victim? Judge, this
Overruled as a bond hearing. We're getting through this portion here.
you indicated you observed the verbal altercation over the texting.
Let him answer it, please.
Can you repeat the last question,
Yes, I'm
please?
sorry. Did you tell Detective Garapi that you and your girlfriend, Jenny Monero, were sitting 5 to 6 feet to the left of the victim?
I can't recall that.
Okay. Did you also tell him that you had observed the verbal altercation over the texting?
That part is correct.
Did you tell Detective Garapi that the incident escalated so quickly and it didn't have to?
I'm sorry?
The incident escalated so quickly and it didn't have to.
Correct.
You further stated that the victim stood up, turned and glared at the suspect for a few seconds.
Judge, I'm going to object. It's totally leading. It's testifying, actually.
Sustained. This isn't necessary, Mr.
Judge.
Garcia, and you didn't. This is not rehabilitation. He didn't ask about these things. He never said anything about these things. What you're telling me now, that's completely new. That's not part of what got introduced on direct. That's not part of what I heard on cross, and it's not even rehabilitation.
Judge, he is trying to say that this witness left things out of his written statement.
Yeah, I heard that earlier.
Okay, I'm trying to get there, and this is the full. In on impeachment, Judge, he was trying to say that he left things out, not only about the popcorn, but other things. And I think this goes to show that this is a consistent statement that he gave at the time. He's trying to impeach him with his written statement.
I understand. So, do you have any portion that is consistent with the statements that he made
Yes.
today that is
Yes.
inconsistent with the written statement? Let's get to that portion then.
Okay.
Judge, if I may just make an objection here.
I
This is
sustained your
correct.
last
All he
one.
needs to say is, what did you tell the officer?
I understand. You may inquire, Mr. Garcia.
Okay, thank you, Judge. Did you tell Detective Garapi that the defendant said, "You just threw popcorn at me"?
I heard the words throwing popcorn at me. That I remember him saying clearly.
Sir, the question was, did you tell that to Detective Garapi?
Oh, that's correct.
Okay.
And then you indicated that he pulled out a gun from his pants and he shot the victim in the chest.
I don't know where he...
Sustained. I didn't hear that in direct. I didn't hear that in cross. That's the first time I'm hearing that. We're not doing new things. So this is redirect. If you've got something that you want to rehabilitate on, ask that. But if the next one's not a rehabilitation, it's the last one. What do you got?
May I have a moment, Judge?
You may.
I think that was the only thing that I needed to clarify, Judge, the fact that he did tell the deputies about throwing the popcorn.
Okay.
I have no further questions.
All right. Thank you, sir. You are excused. All right. Now let's talk about what kind of break we're going to take, or if we're done for the night, because it's now 6:25. If we take a break, let's say we call it 30 minutes. That means it'll really be 35. We'll be back here at 7 o'clock. You still have 3 witnesses, correct?
Yes, sir.
Each one of them goes 45 minutes, and we still take a few breaks in between for comfort. That puts us getting out of here conservatively at 11 o'clock, probably more like 11:30 or midnight, because y'all are going to want to do extensive closing arguments. At some point, we have to recognize that this does not make sense. I would be the first person to say that I wanted to get this done today, but are we trying to jam the square peg into the round hole here with great futility, or are we ready to call it a day and come back on Friday or Tuesday? Or, I mean, I'll make it as convenient to you as possible, but let's be realistic here. People haven't eaten. People are tired. I've got staff that have been here for a while. Captain Ferrantelli, am I going to be able to continue to maintain security until 11 or 11:30 at night here?
Whatever you need, sir.
I appreciate your enthusiasm. But,
As long as I can eat.
I understand. I mean, let's be realistic here. What are we doing? Mr. Garcia, talk to your team, and Mr. Michaels, talk with your team. Stretch.
I vote for break.
You vote for break? Well, we're definitely breaking at some point, but the question is,
I mean,
how long? This is getting ridiculous.
another day is what that.
Huh?
Another day.
Yeah. Careful. I'm getting ready to weigh in here, so let's go back on the record. Mr. Garcia, I'll hear from the state, I'll hear from the defense, I'll hear from representatives of the victim's family, and then I'll make a decision. What do you got, Mr. Garcia?
Judge, I think the prudent thing to do, and obviously we would leave it in your discretion, is to go ahead and adjourn court today, Judge, and then resume whenever the court can give us as much time as possible. I think you indicated sometime next week, maybe Tuesday or so. Judge, and I'd like to remind the court that I told the court that this was not going to be a 3-hour hearing. It was going to go all day and into the night, and so...
I'm not blaming anybody here. I'll call it my fault. I overestimated what we were able to do.
But, Judge, we want as much time as we possibly can get from the court. We don't want to be rushed. I mean, you know, we have a lot of stuff to still do.
Okay. Defense, what's your position on that?
We would defer to the court, but we would like to do it on Friday, not next week. We're ready to finish off this hearing, and we would respectfully ask the court to allow us to do this on Friday.
Friday, you'd have my undivided attention as of noon. Other judges owe me, as I've covered lots of stuff for them, so I'll be able to get somebody as of noon to cover the remainder of my day, but I cannot give you more than as of noon. If I give you as of noon, I'm not going past 6 o'clock on a Friday night, not because, you know, I don't have any place better to be, but that being said, I don't want to tire out my courtroom staff and have people both weary and unfocused in proceeding in this matter. So the question becomes, realistically, is 6 hours with reasonable breaks enough time? If we start at noon, can we be done by 6 o'clock in your estimation, Mr. Escobar?
Your Honor, I think we can, and I will even cut my closing short in order to make sure that happens, and not cut my closing short to an extent that is going to, you know, damage the defense. But I feel very certain that if we start at 12 o'clock on Friday, we can finish at 6 o'clock by 6 o'clock on Friday.
All right.
Judge,
Mr. Garcia,
there's absolutely no way that we're going to be done, Judge. The thing about it, if you look at the cross-examination today, Mr. Escobar has gone 45 minutes to an hour on each of the witnesses. We still have witnesses left. We have video left. We have audio left. We are not going to be done by 6 o'clock.
all right, well, then in your estimation, if we're not going to be done by 6 o'clock and we start at noon, then we're not going to be done until 1 o'clock in the morning if we keep going here, because we need 30 minutes for dinner.
No, that's what I told you, Judge.
Okay.
And I told you that it would be prudent to go ahead and adjourn court today, pick another day when you can give us your full attention, from, you know, starting in the early morning and going the entire day.
I understand. Mr. Grimaldi, representative of the victim and the spouse is present. Do you have any objection to me continuing the proceedings?
No, Your Honor, I don't have any objection to continuing the proceedings. What I do have the objection is potentially having this go on and on and on, in the sense that if I agree with the state 100%, and that's why I actually voiced my opinion to him. If we start on Friday, I know both counsel wants to be heard as completely as possible. We not only have that, we also have the victim's statement. There is absolutely no reason to drag anyone through this on 3 separate occasions. And I think that there is no way that we're going to be finished here if we start at noon on a Friday by 6, as you're suggesting. My suggestion would be started, as he said, in the morning, where we have all day and people can put it aside so they have the whole day in front of them.
Suppose I start at 10 a.m. on Friday. Can we be done by 6 if I start at 10 a.m., Mr. Garcia? That gives you a full 8 hours. I'll make my morning calendar.
Judge, I don't want to be in a position where I say yes and then we're not done, Judge. You know, hopefully, realistically, we should be able to, but I don't know what hurdles we're going to run into. I mean, you know,
I'm not expecting you to anticipate the unexpected. I'm just saying pragmatically and realistically, if I give you 8 more court hours, do you think 8 more court hours, including a brief lunch, so that's realistically 7 hours of time, do you think we can get it done on Friday?
Well, I mean, the other thing, Judge, we still have the issue of the video. The court hasn't ruled upon the admissibility of the video, so I'm sure that there's going to be lengthy argument on that.
I thought I did rule on the video. I said court's not going to be closed. They can shoot it from the screen. I'm not allowing it to be released. It's part of the 30-day hold, but it's not prohibited from being filmed by TV cameras.
No, I understand that, Judge, but Mr. Escobar had legal arguments as to the admissibility of it.
All right, let me hear that. Do you have legal arguments that I'm unaware of?
Judge, the only legal argument is just going to be the foundation, and I've already made that argument, and the court has ruled that you're going to allow it in, and so we're there.
I've ruled that I'm going to allow it in if foundation is made. Are you challenging foundation that was laid down?
Judge, at this point in time, they haven't made a foundation argument, and so they haven't put anybody, up to say, hey, this fairly and accurately depicts what took place, and so I would imagine.
Hold on. One at a time. Anything else you want to say before I let Mr. Garcia get going?
That's it.
Mr. Garcia, you're going to tell me that your first witness laid foundation by saying that he saw the video and it represented what he saw?
Yes, sir, Judge. And that, based upon the case law that I've provided to the court, Judge, that's the foundation that needs to be laid in order for the video to be played.
You having anybody else lay any other portion of the foundation, including the custodian of the video that's going to come in and tell me that's the video?
We've waived the chain of custody, Your Honor.
All right, so you've waived the custodian, and your objection, though, still is to it being a fair and accurate representation of the depiction of what happened?
That would be it.
All right, well, I'm going to find that the foundation was made if you've waived chain of custody on the custodian of records.
We have.
So that's fine, but I will be making a finding that you made the foundation, and I'll admit it.
Okay.
Yeah, that I'll do. So does that speed us up at all?
Yes, it does, Judge. I mean, we took care of that in 2 minutes, so yes.
Okay, well, every once in a while I'll get one quickly. All right, I think we can do it on Friday then.
10 o'clock, Judge, though.
Okay, 10 a.m., and here's what we're going to do. Let the word go, well, let me make sure. You available 10 a.m. on Friday?
I'll make myself available.
Mr. Michaels? He's your boss, so I guess he'll make you available. All right. Mr. Grimaldi, are you and the spouse available?
Preferably not, Your Honor, but we will make ourselves available.
Everybody in the room would say preferably not. I agree, preferably not, but we got to get this done. There's two families that are waiting for an answer that are going to be impacted dramatically one way or another. There's no way I can make this right for both families. Probably ain't going to make it right for either family, but they at least deserve an answer so we can get going forward and decide what has to happen next. So let's try and get this done on Friday. We're going to start at 10 a.m. in this room. Everybody get set up. State, you've got a number of pre-trials that are going to happen on that day. Please advise, I'm guessing that Mr. Matte is going to draw out VOP duty. Please advise Mr. Matte, things are going to go quickly. Offers need to be made in advance, or excuse me, statements as to what you'll be seeking need to be made in advance, because it's going to be the fastest pretrial counter I ever did, and Linda Babb is done, so she will stand in for me if she needs to and utilize courtroom A to do as much of it as is still standing. Now, she's watching this at home. Linda, you're volunteering for me. Thank you. She doesn't actually owe me, but she'll help. And she might do my afternoon motions, but we have an extra courtroom, I know, so let's do it on Friday. Let's get this done. Is there anything else I can do to facilitate moving as quickly and effectively as possible to Friday?
Would you hold the subpoenas over, Judge, for
I
the
will.
Vice President of Cobb and the General Manager? They're here.
You need me to bring them in and tell them, or
Please, Judge, just.
are they going to be? You talk to them. Are they going to be unhappy about this? Is this a?
They have no idea that this is an option.
Okay, Ms. Summer, could you go in the back, break it to them, and see if they're available? If they're going to be out of town, I'm not canceling plane flights, but if they're going to be available, I want to do this on Friday. Mr. Michaels and Mr. Escobar, anything else I can do today to advance moving quickly and effectively on Friday?
No, Your Honor.
Okay. Mr. Reeves, it's my habit at the end of every proceeding to ask the defendant if he has any questions, concerns, or issues he needs to bring to the court's attention, especially in a homicide allegation. So this is our first time at the end of a day of proceedings where you are present. I'm going to ask you that question. I'm going to give you a chance to talk to Mr. Escobar and Mr. Michaels before I ask you that question. Mostly people say no, but I just want to make sure you feel like you have the opportunity to talk to me if you need to. No? All right, good. We'll just wait for Ms. Summers to come back in. We're going to need him transported again on Friday. Captain Ferrantelli, sorry about that. And all the same circumstances are going to apply, all the same orders.
I can turn these off, I can turn that off, so I don't care to tell what it is. This is his courthouse, yes, they let me use his room, so he's okay with it, I'm okay with it. He's okay with it, they're going to take it up. I'm just saying, that it's your court, if you want to use in there, you take it out. This is not my home. This is Judge Sexton's work. He's on vacation. Yeah. I'm going to ask if you. Absolutely, yeah. I'm going to do my 8 o'clock calendar today so I can just rush over here and get set up, and I'll announce all that.
All right, here's the situation. It is a rare occasion, but there's actually an extra courtroom available to me on Friday. So Friday morning, we're going to do my regular pre-trials from my 5 to 700 active felony cases in courtroom A. We're going to do my regular juveniles that are necessary in courtroom A for my 150 to 200 juvenile cases that I've got. And then we will come back in here and do this case in here exclusively. That way everybody can set up. That way the attorneys can set up in advance so that when we hit 10 o'clock, I walk in here and we get going right from there. State, you'll have your witnesses available. Did you have those gentlemen come in, or do you not need me to speak to them personally?
We've taken care of it.
You've taken care of it? Thank you.
Everything's good.
All right, I think that covers everything that we need to do. And so with that in mind, we'll be at recess till 10 a.m. on Friday morning.
All rise. Oh, I mean, this is